Hello everyone, welcome back. I've got a number of things to show you today. I'll start off with a couple of little things that I think I may have forgotten to show in the past. I've shown a number of times how to make a compass, and you can see that that is an iron ingot on the four sides of a redstone dust. Making a clock is the same. You do it with 4 gold ingots on each of the sides of redstone dust. One of the other things that there have been some questions about is how do I deal with the animals in these pens here? How do I slaughter them and so on? In a previous video I mentioned getting crushed to death by chickens, and that happened in a 1 block wide, and it may have actually been 2 blocks deep, but it happened in a hole that was only 1 block wide. And chickens will sometimes be able to cram into such a small space without crushing themselves, but they will still crush any other mob that falls into that. That's unusual. It's kind of a quirk of chickens. If you are dealing with them in longer pens like this, they can't get that tight without crushing each other. And that's usually when I stop breeding the animals, is when they get tight enough in there that they start to crush each other. And you'll know that because you'll hear the sounds of animals hurting and dying, and then you'll know it's time to stop feeding them. When they get close to full, like these are here, you have to be careful. If you start carrying around something they want to eat, then they'll start crowding toward the end trying to get to that thing that they're trying to eat, and they will start crushing themselves to death. But if you avoid that, you can fill your pens a little bit fuller, a little bit more full, use some proper English, and get a little bit more out when it comes time to slaughter your animals. Now, I usually do that with a stone sword, at least until I've got a good enchanted diamond sword, because if you try to do it with an axe, you're going to hit one at a time. And you might kill one every time you hit them, but you're only hitting one at a time, whereas if you use a sword, it gets a sweeping attack, and it'll hit 5 or 6 at the same time. You're going to have to swing 3 or 4 times before you start killing any of them, but overall you will kill them faster using a sweeping attack. So when I'm harvesting the animals, I prefer to, when I've got them full like I mentioned, then I will try to slaughter 1/3 so I can breed the remaining 2/3, and then just let them grow up before I do it again. That'll take 20 minutes for them to grow up. You kind of just have to eyeball the third, because when they're full, it's hard to count them. It's basically impossible to count them. You just kind of have to be like, oh, that looks like about 1/3. They're going to run away from you when you start hitting them, so the far end is going to be more compacted than the end that you're doing the slaughtering on. And so I think we're pretty close to having about 1/3 down. I'm going to jump in the pen, grab everything that's dropped, jump up to the boat, and right click on it to get out. Then I will feed the animals so that they start entering love mode, making babies to replace the ones that we butchered for their products and meat. Once you have some cows in this manner, you're going to want to cook up some steak. That's about the best early game food there is. It's just about the best game there is, or just about the best food there is in the game, period. If you use it just right, golden carrots can be better, but steak, I should say, is very simple. It fills up a lot of hunger. 8 points, or 4 of those little meat icons down at the bottom there. And it heals the most health when you are at the high levels of hunger, basically almost full or full. So it's a great hardcore food. It's just a great food in general. The better foods are very much harder to get. Or at least are much later game for you to have any significant supply of. So you can see that didn't take too much wheat. It took about a third of the stack. We're going to put away our products. And you can see I've got a inventory full of eggs here. I'm preparing for a chicken farm that we'll be building here. We're going to butcher all the animals except for 2 of each type. Except for the chickens, we're going to butcher all of those. And then we're going to use these eggs to get that chicken farm going. I've done chicken farms a number of times on my minis list, but I've only shown various stages of completion. I haven't actually done a start to finish tutorial. We may do that. Alright, what else should I show you guys today? We have over here large spruce trees that can grow up to 32 blocks tall, and they are 2 by 2 blocks, so that can be up to 2 stacks of wood from one tree. It's very tall, it takes a while to chop it down, but it's a lot less time than running around, wrestling inside of foliage, breaking leaf blocks, hopping up and down, trying to make sure that you can get the tall trees, and a lot of other things that can be problematic with single trees. You run into monsters because they love to hide under the leaves during the day where they don't burn to death. It's just safer, faster, and better to go with these larger trees. Now the way you do that is you lay them out you lay out saplings in a 2 by 2 square. I'll show you that. Maybe this will drop some saplings for us after we chop it down, but I'm going to show you how fast it can be to get a lot of wood. It takes probably about 15 seconds to chop down an average spruce tree of about 7 blocks. And I just fell off. That normally doesn't happen. Which slowed us down a little bit. But we just chop the 2 blocks over our head and 1 block right in front of our head, and then move up. Obviously you need to be careful. If you fall from the very top of this tree, that could hurt a lot. But it's going to take us about a minute or 2 to chop up this entire tree, and we're going to get 2 stacks of wood out of it. Whereas getting 2 stacks of wood running around chopping up single trees at a time, that will take you a whole day, a lot of the time, 10 minutes or so. So this is very advantageous, and it's simple to do. Now you saw down there on the ground we had that brown instead of the green grass. That's podzol. That has the special property additionally of being able to keep mushrooms rooted in the ground even in high light. The mushrooms won't grow in high light. They won't multiply, but they will keep from popping out of the ground. So that's another benefit of using spruce trees, say, to instead using jungle trees, which can also grow very tall like we're seeing here when you plant them in a 2 by 2 configuration of saplings. But jungle saplings, or jungle trees I should say, when they grow very tall like this, they can branch out like oak trees do, and that can slow you down quite a bit and not actually give you that much more wood. So I definitely recommend these spruce trees. They grow tall, they grow straight, and usually they don't have a ton of leaves like this one over here has. Usually they have bare trunks almost all the way up to the top. Now if you want to make it even faster, to try and get the saplings to replant, you can take a hoe to those leaf blocks. They will break very quickly. We've got 2 saplings that dropped while we were chopping the tree. We'll wait a little longer, it'll drop some more, but you see this one grew a little close to this one that has tons of leaves on it, and that is keeping some of those leaf blocks from breaking, and it's going to keep some saplings potentially from falling. So we've only got the 2 right now. But that's not going to generally happen. You get one of these trees with a lot of leaf blocks like that, you chop it down, and it's going to drop you a ton of saplings. It's going to make up for any lost saplings that it may have caused if you plant the trees a little too close together like I did. You don't want to plant them too far apart, because then you spend all your time running between them, or at least you spend a significantly greater amount of time running between them. But you just lay it out like that, and as long as the northwest sapling doesn't have anything in the squares around it except these other saplings, then it will grow. When it grows, it'll grow tall. You can see that I changed the direction of the sugarcane farm, and the reason for that is this fence that we have over here. This is to mark off the area which an iron golem can potentially spawn in around this worker housing that we have been building. Villagers can spawn an iron golem when they're gossiping. When they're looking at each other like that, they are gossiping. And if there are enough villagers nearby gossiping, and there aren't any iron golems around, or aren't too many iron golems around, and they have slept and worked at their block in Java Edition, it's a little bit different for Bedrock, but there's a few different qualifications. I'm not going to get into all of the things, but if they meet those conditions, then they will try to spawn an iron golem. And they will do that within 8 blocks horizontally and 6 blocks vertically, plus or minus each direction. It's actually 7 and 8, but just measure 8 and 8, and you won't accidentally make any mistakes on that. So, the way I've measured, that's a 4x4 room in there. I've marked here 4x4. They can't be standing in this corner. That's the first block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this whole area is clear. Iron golems can spawn here. They're not going to climb over the fence. And now it's controlled. Anywhere that an iron golem could possibly spawn will be stuck inside this fence, and they won't get up close to our other iron farm that we built over there. If they get too close, then those villagers might say, hey, we've got a lot of iron golems over here, we don't need any more, and they won't spawn any for you inside of your trap. These guys aren't going to wander into the trap by accident. They avoid falling off ledges if they can. So this will help keep our iron farm productive. Speaking of, I'd like to show you, we did well on this one. It appears to be spawn proofed. The iron farm has been running for hours now, and it has produced a significant amount of iron. I'll show you what that looks like. We've got a bunch of poppies that have been spawned every time an iron golem dies, or every time an iron golem dies, there's a chance that a poppy will spawn or drop. With the drops of the iron golem, it'll always drop at least 3 iron ingots, sometimes as many as 5. You can see here, it's been going for a while. It's really produced a lot. This is going to fuel any major project we have, probably in the early game. That's probably more than enough to build a big chicken farm, like I've shown a few times in the Minecraft mini videos. So we're going to build a chicken farm. We're going to clear out, as I believe I mentioned, we're going to clear out the other animals and build it here. We're probably going to start it from about 5 blocks back from this row. Go 10 blocks by 5 blocks of hoppers and have a bunch of chickens on top of that. We'll have chicken coming out of our ears and feathers coming out of our ears, and we'll be able to trade all of those in for emeralds. Something else I'd like to show you. I have a semi-automatic furnace built here. There are 3 hoppers feeding this furnace here. There's one on the top, one on the side, one on the bottom. The one on the side feeds fuel into the furnace. The one on the top feeds this raw material slot, and the one on the bottom empties the product slot. We have a lot of cobblestone that we are going to have to bake to create the second floor of that worker housing, something like 500 smooth stone we're going to have to make. So that's, 1,000 smelts. This is advantageous for something like that. It takes a fair amount of iron, but since we have an iron farm that is producing well, we can afford to spare that iron, and this will save us a lot of time. Normally, you have to get in there every time a stack runs out. You got to go put another stack in, or you just got to keep coming back and topping off the stack. It takes a lot of time that you could be doing something else. So instead, we can put stuff in these barrels, and we can put 27 stacks here, and 5 stacks here, and then the 1 stack there. That is a lot of stacks, way more than we need to smelt 500 cobblestone. And this series of 8 furnaces will feed this hopper chain will feed down the line. We have them pointing at each other. Might be a little hard to see. There's kind of monochrome going on in here, but yeah, you can see that hopper is pointed into the next one, and they're all pointed into each other until you get down to the hopper at the end that points down into a chest. And you can see it's already been smelting some charcoal for us. And we can spread that out like this across 8 squares and just start putting that into the barrel, and it'll start putting it into the hopper, and then the hopper will start putting it into the furnace. Just feed it like this. Now when you're only feeding in 8 at a time, that's not as efficient. But when you're feeding it in a whole stack at a time, multiple stacks at a time particularly, then it becomes much more efficient. We have here 2 stacks of spruce logs. We're just going to spread those out. In fact, we've got 3 stacks of spruce logs. We're going to do that for all 3 of them. And we could go around and put all of these in the hard way, but instead we're going to put it in this way, and it's going to feed them in. These furnaces are going to turn on, and they're going to start smelting it. It still isn't terribly efficient at this point, but when we start sticking in 10 stacks of cobblestone, some of these are going to have more than 1 stack in them, and it's just going to keep feeding it in until it's all baked. And we can take it out and put it back in the top again, and it'll just keep going, working for us, saving us some time. 8 is maybe a few more than I really have to put in that series, but the more that are in that series of furnaces, the faster it's going to work. So I went with 8. That was a significant amount of iron. I believe it was about 105 iron ingots, which we would definitely not have wanted to hand mine, but since we have a great iron farm going, it was not a big deal. We've got hundreds of iron ingots in that chest. I think the only thing left worth showing at this point is probably, oh, there's that well over there. I can show you that. I may have mentioned before about how, those wells that you build, they're just like 3 wide, or you can do 2 by 2, whatever. You can stumble across them. They can get in the way. One of the things I like to do is stick a well tucked away under some blocks so that you don't accidentally trip into it, but it's there, and you can just grab as much water as you want to grab, and it'll keep refilling itself. Got a little block here to keep me from coming in unless I sneak in. And because I've covered the other blocks, I'm highly unlikely to accidentally grab the other one. You see, I was even pointed at the right block, and I still grabbed the center block. So I don't recommend doing that. You may be able to get that one if you try really hard. Put that in there, try really hard to aim at the right side. I can, but that's pretty tough. We had to try real hard on purpose to grab that block. So this will meet all of our water needs for a long time. It's in a nice centralized location, and we're not going to stumble all over it, and it doesn't look too bad. We can make it a little prettier with some other colored blocks if we wanted to. But the theme of this camp is kind of quick and dirty, so we're not going to worry about that too much. You see, I fill up 4 of those hunger indicators, 8 points of hunger. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to start trading with these villagers and leveling them up. Come in here and say we've got that tree farm going. We can be like, I would like an iron axe, please. and it'll fill up this XP bar, and eventually he'll get enough XP that he can start giving us diamond weapons. And we're going to do the same thing for an armor smith, like we have over here. You can get iron armor from him. This is another way of going if you don't want to hand mine all the iron. It takes a while to get rolling, and it's kind of dangerous to go around that long without any armor, so I don't recommend it, but it is a possible way to go. And we can get some tools, stone tools even, so we don't have to spend cobblestone on them, from toolsmiths. They come from these smithing tables, whereas the armorers come from blast furnaces and weaponsmiths come from grindstones. So we're going to be leveling these up. Now what I did off camera is much what you saw in the iron farm video. They were all farmers. I had used composter blocks to make them all farmers, except for the couple that we rolled up in the very first video on this subject. And I just threw a bunch of food at them, and I did the math to try and figure out how much food they would need to do the 24 villagers, and I just let them, over the course of many days, breed with each other until the whole place filled up. Then I stuck the doors back on. The trapdoors weren't working out, so I just took them off. And I took off the iron doors so that everybody could mingle, and then when night came along, I put the doors back on. Now, I could have shown you that, but it really took a long time to do, so it wouldn't have been a terribly interesting video. That's how you do it. You can see down there I've got a similar thing going on with lava, so that I can have a lava source block that I can use to kill those iron golems down there before I had my fence up and they were wandering all over the place. I've mentioned that. You do not want to risk the aggro of an iron golem early game. You will probably die unless you're pretty quick and a little lucky. So that, I think, is about all I have to show you today. Next time we'll probably start a series of videos on the chicken farm. That will take quite a while to build. We spent about an hour building this. It'll probably take twice that long to build the chicken farm, considering that there will be some redstone machinery involved. So thank you all for coming and watching. I hope you have a great day, and we will see you again soon. Bye now.